I've been working 2 years now, about 16 of those years at Interstate. So I wanted to tell you what I've learned. And this is definitely the worst downturn that I've ever been through, and most other people. But if you've survived that long like me, you kind of learn you like the brick industry. And there's one thing I hate to see. I hate to see a plant, go down. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that and kind of what we've gone through in our philosophy. We've been fortunate. We have 2 big tunnel kills, and we've been able to keep them both running through this whole period. So it's kind of, from what I've heard, it's kind of a philosophy how to run a brick plant. Do you run fast all the time and build a big inventory and then, shut the plant down and draw down the inventory? I worked at a place that did that. Or do you slow down, try to match your production rate to your incoming order rate and keep running? And that's what we've kind of had to do that because the owner of our company really doesn't want any big inventories, doesn't want to tie up cash. But the hardest thing about that, and especially for our industry, we have these tunnel kills, and I think it can put us at a disadvantage because all the other people out there that are competing for wall space, I'm not sure their processes are, have this constraint like we do with these kills. So, but we've kind of been able to find a way to slow these things down and keep them running. So this slide shows just a typical tunnel kill. This is one I'm just showing it up through the firing zone. And you can see it's divided into zones. So it goes up through car position 22. It's a Keller. So the car's, it's a 32 wide, has 18 packs per car. And that's how the temperatures were laid out at a 16 car push, which was real typical for, the way things used to be a few years ago. But how do you slow this thing down? So this is just an Excel spreadsheet, and this is what we've kind of used. It's really your time and temperature that really matters. So what you can do on a spreadsheet, since this is an index push kill, we have the fire lanes, which are the spaces between the brick. Lay that out. In the next row, there's the type of burner. This is a top fired kill, so it was mostly pipe burners. And then start counting back, calculating back from the end of the fire zone backwards. And I really didn't learn this stuff in school. It just kind of came together through the years and working with some other people. So starting at the firing zone is time 0 and you count back. Now, so that would be at a 16 car push, that's 34 hours into it for us. Okay. So from that, you can graph that, and you have, this is just for the firing half of the kill, you have your time temperature curve. And I call this a reference curve, because this is where we were used to running that kill. So what happens if you go and you keep all those fixed temperatures the same, and you slow that kill down to 6 cars? Look, you got way more time and temperature, so the fuel goes out the roof. And we've pushed like that over the years at times in the winter. But the question is, how do you figure out, how do you get at a 6 car push, how do you get your back down to your normal time temperature curve? So you just make 2 of these things, and the bottom one would be set for 6 cars a day, kind of the exact same layout. And then you just go through and start picking temperatures and dropping your curve down over top, so you can match back up with your reference curve. Then, where does that lead you? If you look back at your little map of the kill, after you do that, basically you see that you don't need half the burners you have on there. And, this is difficult if someone's worked in a plant their whole career, and the kills always ran at one speed, and they have zones, and the zones have fixed temperatures. It's really hard for people to, grasp this sometimes, or get used to it, or think that it can be done. So we were able to go through, but we weren't just able to cut all these burners off. This is the top of our kill. It's a top-fired kill. And most of our burners are these pipe burners, which just spray air and gas into the tunnel, and it burns. And then, where the burners start, we'd have high-velocity burners that can burn in the, a non-red heat atmosphere. So what we did that was really cool is just buy these off-the-shelf high-velocity burners, these tube burners that can just go in. And, to change a whole kill out, it's a whole lot of money, but if you just buy a row at a time or a couple at a time, these things are available out there, and you can do that. So we bought these and put them in, way up, and we're buying a little bit at a time, and we can buy these things on our maintenance budget, Another thing that just kind of fell in our lap when we were running a kill really, really slow. There's 2 air headers per zone here, and so there's a actuator motor and a one that's slaving it. We just realized, you can split that in half and make that 2 separate zones. That was a real easy change, and we're in the process now of, when you're running really slow and those cars are under there a lot longer, just making more zones out of those air headers. I think nowadays with kills where they have these computer control systems, it's pretty easy to make these modifications. We have our electricians are able to do it pretty easily. We can do it on the fly. The one thing that we haven't really gotten away with, you'd think you'd have a whole lot more time, but a lot of these carbon issues are right there where they always are when you trim that back. And I'm not going to brag about BTUs per pound or anything, because the BTU per pound hasn't stayed the same. It has gone up. But I do think, by making these adjustments to the kill and retooling it, it has amazed me that it is possible to run these things a lot slower. This is another little thing this little lab kill is really helpful now. These things are programmable. You can put stuff in there. This is an example where we have 3 different kinds of shales. We were having that carbon problem, and helped us find one that's not as bad. We've done we're kind of a job shop. That's another reason we can't really shut down. We don't want to turn away any order. And so we've moved people around a lot, and our workforce has been very flexible. I think our superintendent's been really good with communicating with people, and I think that's very important. I've just noticed that if you start moving people around, they get scared because they know a layoff's coming, and if they may not want to work in a certain job, or they may have to go back and do more manual labor. So we give them a lot of time, go slow, we communicate with them, but our workforce has been pretty flexible. This was sort of an unfinished slide. So this is just a blending machine. We have guys that are on our residential line. We have guys that are making brick running the robots for a couple days, and they can package for a couple days, and then they run this stuff sometimes. So they're really flexible. And it is good, I think, to keep running, because we can keep our product development going too at the same time. I kind of whited the numbers out because I don't want to get in trouble, but this is a nice graph I got from my boss that shows how closely over the months our production tracks, the sales, the incoming orders. And that's kind of been our philosophy, and I'm glad we've been able to keep running and haven't had to shut down. So I just, and amazingly, through this whole period, we have a big yard anyway, because we are kind of a job shop. But we've been able to bring that our total inventory down at the same time. I'm kind of a nostalgic history guy, and there was a lot of comments this morning about the younger generation and affordability and stuff. And this is an old picture from the brick company that Interstate Brick was before the Great Recession. It was the Salt Lake Press Brick Company. And I've always liked this little saying on there, a nice brick home for every family. If interested, we can help you. So I just wanted to share that. Another thing, this is another picture I just kind of came out. The man that started the company back in the 1880s, I read he was also the first, he set up a school to teach masons how to, use the product. And we have a salesman who really reaches out to architects, schools, and masons, our customers, brings them in, tours the plant. And I think, that's one of those soft things. It's hard to know what the effect of that is, but I think it probably helps our industry to bring the people in that use our brick and just give them a really good tour, and so they can feel good about the product they're using, and hopefully they'll choose brick, or encourage people to use it. So hopefully we are coming out of this recession, and thank you very much.